It had been a day of planning. Katie learned that if you go to a big place and you're a child, it's best to bring something with your name, address, and phone number on it. Orbie found out that you need to bring a raincoat in the car in case of the weather changes. And they both discovered that it was really hard to sleep the night before an adventure. The family was going to the local fair, and I have to tell you, there was great excitement in the air. For Katie and Orbie, the car ride was full of giggles and anticipation. At the fairground, it was hot and sunny, and there were children everywhere. Katie and Orbie could barely take it all in. There were so many wonderful things to see and do. Just then they heard gales of laughter tumbling out of the funhouse. And Katie grabbed Orbie's arm, and in a pink flash, they were off. Mom and Dad hurried behind them. At the funhouse, the ticket man asked to see their admission wristbands. They both felt pretty important showing them. Inside, the first thing they saw was a wall of funny-shaped mirrors. And when you stood in front of them, they made you look warped and lumpy in all kinds of strange ways. Orbie did a handstand in front of one, and he looked like an upside-down bullfrog with a huge belly. And Katie stood at another, and her head looked longer than the rest of her body. When Orbie moved in, his eyes became 3 feet tall. There were a lot of tee-hees and chuckles from the friends. And then they came to a room with a moving floor. When Katie stepped on, it wobbled one way and another. She really had to sway back and forth to keep from falling. Behind her, Orbie tooted and honked. It was a very wild and wobbly walk. In the next room, they had to find their way through a maze. Katie and Orbie bumped into each other several times. It was hard to find the way out, but finally they did. On the other side of the maze was a giant tumbling barrel. Katie was afraid to walk through because it just kept turning. Orbie thought it looked like fun and went first. He stepped in and it started to roll him up on the side, and he turned and he ran down. He was like a hamster on a treadmill. Katie laughed, and then he stuck himself to the side of the barrel and went up and around again. The funhouse man helped a very dizzy Orbie get out the other side. Katie ran through and managed to do it without rolling. When Dad went through, he spread his arms and his legs apart and held onto the walls of the barrel, and when it went around, he stayed in that position and looked like he was doing a cartwheel. Katie and Orbie squealed and clapped. Orbie couldn't wait until he was tall enough to do that. Mom came through the same way Katie did, quickly and laughing all the way. Now back out on the fairground, Katie and Orbie climbed aboard the teacup ride. Mom and Dad were too big to go, so they just watched. When the teacups started to move, they spun slowly at first and went around and around, but as they got faster, Katie began to slide over to Orbie, and soon they were squished together. Orbie made some funny faces that looked like it was being squished to a pancake, and Katie couldn't stop laughing. And next, Katie spotted a spaceship ride that she thought Orbie might like. The ride operator told them to hold on tight when he buckled them in. Katie and Orbie wiggled with delight. Well, the spaceship lurched forward, up, went round. Then it sort of floated and came down again. Katie and Orbie felt like they were flying through space. There were stars hanging all around the ride. It was fabulous fun. When they got off, Dad suggested they try something other than a ride. 2 in a row was enough for now. As Dad pointed to an exhibit tent, Orbie spied the games area and headed that way. Mom explained that the games were hard to win. Katie wanted to try too, though, and so Dad sighed. He said they would play 3 games. After that, win or lose, they would stop. No one was to feel bad if they didn't win. Katie and Orbie nodded excitedly. Well, at the first 2 games, they had no luck at all. Games were difficult. The third one was a ball toss. As they walked up to it, Katie saw a little pink polka-dotted poodle prize, and she just loved it. It reminded her of Orbie. Orbie, on the other hand, pointed to a zany striped hat prize he liked. Katie was first. She had 3 balls, and she aimed the first one, tried hard to get it in the basket. She really wanted to win the poodle. The ball didn't even go near the basket. The second one bounced off the edge of the basket. The last ball hit the back wall and rolled away. And Katie looked at the polka-dotted poodle, and she was very disappointed. Orbie stepped up to take his turn. He asked Mom to hold him upside down. But you can imagine how surprised the game man was. He was even more surprised when the ball went in. Katie clapped madly. A few people stopped to watch Orbie take his second throw, and they all cheered when that ball went in. And for the third toss, Dad pretended to do a drum roll on the counter. And the ball went in. Katie jumped up and down, and even the game man was smiling as he rang a bell to announce a winner. Katie was very proud. Orbie thought for a moment, and then he chose the pink poodle. Well, you can imagine Katie's delight when she turned around. There was Orbie holding out the pink poodle for her, and Katie smiled with glee, but then she stopped. She told Orbie it was his win, and he needed to choose the prize. Orbie burbled that he already had. Katie reminded him of the hat Orbie told her. Winning the game and giving her the poodle made him much happier than any old hat. Then he held the poodle to his tummy and added that anyway, they matched. That day at the fair was full of more rides and fun for Katie and Orbie. And it ended up being a very special day for them that they never forgot. And I'm sure if you go to the fair, you'll find that the biggest prize that you can win is the fun that you have with your friend, just like Katie and Orbie.
Did you know that people called astronomers look up in the sky at night and see pictures in the stars? The early astronomers gave these pictures names, like Orion the Hunter, the Big Dipper, or Leo the Lion. Maybe one night you'll see these pictures in the stars.